All right, everybody, we're back again with another Reup Productions podcast. Today we have Mike Checuga with Remax Next. I'm super excited about getting to talk to you because you have a much different perspective because of your longevity in real estate than a lot of people that I've gotten to talk to. So I think that for me is something that really excites me, and going down the path of just kind of picking your brain on how have you been able to, last this long and have a successful career, because there's things I'm sure you're doing that not only our listeners could take from, but like me as a young entrepreneur myself. So I'm very excited to get to dive deep. Yeah, let's just start off with how did it start? What brought you to real estate?
Well, thanks for having me. First off, I appreciate that. It's nice meeting you, Bobby. What got me into real estate, I flunked out of college, to be quite honest with you, and I had no other career options. A friend that I knew was very successful in real estate, making a lot of money. So I said, I'll give that a try. And then I learned the hard way that it was 100% commission only. So I didn't really have a choice. The family was great, but we weren't rolling in dough, so I had to produce to make money. It was no option. I've been doing it, as you said, a little over 30 years. If I was smarter with my money, I'd be retired by now. But I've enjoyed myself a lot, so that's really all that matters. One of the main thing I think that has got me to last as long as I've lasted in the business, I hired a coach right away. So I did learn from a young age that professional athletes have a coach, CEOs have a coach, they have an advisor, and there's a bunch of different real estate coaches that are out there right now, and I lucked out. I found Mike Ferry, who was my real estate coach, who was fantastic. He was the original, and I've stayed with him for the last 30 years, and he's still coaching today. When we were talking about Vegas earlier, we were at his seminar in Vegas, and he gives you a map and a guideline to follow to be successful in your business. And one of his biggest focuses for me specifically, was time management. That was the biggest thing, because I was a single dad when I was 23, 24, and selling real estate. So I remember talking to Mike about that, and he said, as long as you can control your schedule, you can do anything. So he worked out such a tight schedule for me to follow. I was able to be at home at dinner with my kid in the evening time, go to his practices for football and gymnastics, go to his games, and leading a normal life, where you'll hear a lot of agents, and again, you joked earlier we're going to offend people, and I think it'll happen, where they work 7 days a week and they're available 24 hours a day, and that's just lunacy, and it's a lie. You're not available 24 hours a day, and nobody can work 7 days a week productively or effectively for themselves or their clients. So Mike was very big on creating the way and the structure I did my business, and that's what I think has made me last, and I thrived without bragging. I've done very well in the career, and I love it. It's a great job.
Yeah, that's something that time management, when you say that's something for me that has been really hard. We were kind of touching base, time management, like delegating other things so I can get the time back to do the bigger things in our business. That's awesome too, that finding a coach, like what drove you down that aspect of?
It's a good question. I remember first starting out and nobody had any idea. I would ask them what to do, and one guy said, do open houses all the time. And then one guy said, never do open houses. And then another guy said, work with buyers. And then another guy said, never work with buyers. And I was like, oh, for the love of God, what's going on?
Yeah.
And the broker that I had at the time, who's retired now, is a very successful man, Dan Hunsinger. And he said, go to this seminar. This guy knows what he's talking about. Don't listen to anybody else. They're trying to sell you other stuff. Just focus on what this guy has to say. He knows what he's doing. So it was the first time I met Mike Ferry as a coach. And he actually, it's very funny. You can research real estate coaches, and 90% of the current companies were all clients of his who decided to start their own coaching company.
Right.
You have a choice. You can go to Seabiscuit or everybody else. So I went with Seabiscuit, and he's very strict on the schedule.
Yeah.
And he said, this is the bottom line. And we're in the business of talking to people. Most agents go out of their way not to talk to people about business. They don't want to look desperate for business. You can have a conversation without looking desperate. You actually be interested in the person to see if you can help them. If I can help you, great. If I can't, that's fine too. We just had a nice little conversation.
Yeah.
Mike was very big on delegating, kind of what we talked about. So what you're set up here is very impressive and it's very intense. I know they say everybody can learn something. There's no way I could learn this. It's not possible. I am not smart enough. It would take forever for me to figure this out.
Yeah.
I think the average agent, based on the ones I've discussed, and again, we're going to offend people, think they can do what you do, and it's very simple, and they have no problem doing it. And what it took you guys to set up in a couple of hours, it would take them 3 or 4 weeks to set up.
Yeah.
They think they will benefit from it and do it right. They're wasting so much of their time because this is your expertise.
Yeah.
This is what you guys do. I have no clue how to do it. I don't know where the lights go and the cameras go the right way. I'll look like a moron if I, with the thing. So that's where the delegation comes in. Where is my time best suited, and what's my value that I can bring?
We see that all the time, and Memo and I, we get blue in the face because we're just like, why are you doing this when you have so much more important things to be doing? It doesn't make any sense. But you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them, drink. And that's sometimes how we feel.
Well, I think you're going to see a difference in that. I think you're going to see a lot of people being forced to drink right now. The market's changing. It's becoming a more normalized market.
Yeah.
So one of the I'm big into stats when it comes to the business.
Yeah.
Personally, numbers intimidate me, but work-wise, I need to know my job.
Yeah.
So in January, we had roughly 15,500 agents in the city of Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Which is great. Okay, that's a good amount of people. Right now, I think I just looked at the number, it's like 13,800. So we've already dropped.
Yeah.
So I think people are learning they need to drink the water. They need to figure out something.
Yeah.
Or hire an expert to do a video. Hire a coach to be successful in selling real estate and a little more organized.
Totally.
The coach doesn't make you successful. You do the work. And Mike always says, you had the hard job. I just told you what to do.
Yeah. You had to actually execute it.
Right, which is great.
That's one thing too we notice is, for some of these agents that don't do property tour videos or aren't putting themselves out there marketing, using their platform to be and stay on top of mind. It just always, sometimes people get lost in it's another expense, but what these videos and what content does for you, it's not for the client you have now, it's for the one that comes after, so they can see you and feel you and get a idea of your personality before you even meet.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of the times, you have to be versatile and be able to comfortably work with whoever you're in front of. However, there is a time where it's just not going to work. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. If you don't gel with that person doesn't gel with you, that's fine. But what a great way to save time.
Yeah.
And they can just say, hey, I saw this video. I really don't want to work with this guy. Or, hey, this is my kind of guy.
Yeah.
I think he's the dude I want to have and sell my house.
100%.
He's upfront. He's honest. That's who I want to work with. It kind of cuts through the middleman a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's, we were talking about that viral video. It's even if you got 200 people or 150 people to watch your little video that talks about the market, does anything that's all. Think about that in one room.
Right. And it goes back to, again, what we spoke about is if you're going to do it right.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what drives me crazy, and I won't mention anybody, but he's a very successful agent, and he does these videos, but he's always half in screen, or the airplane goes overhead kind of a thing, or he trips, or it's all these wacko things. It's like, you're selling a $2 million house. I would be furious if I was your seller, and this is how you present my property.
100%.
It's ridiculous.
Well, that you just made Memo so happy because that's something he says. We talk about that, obviously to each other all the time, and he gets more upset than anybody. Not that he's upset, but he's like, how are you gonna sell a $2 million property and have some something that doesn't look that well, sounds terrible, you're not in focus or you don't have bright lights. It just like it's a lack of standard that he just can't. It drives him nuts.
Oh yeah, no, and it goes back with the real estate industry as well. I mean, I think the industry itself, it's a great profession. It's fantastic, and I think in the States we have like 1.8 million agents, but the average agent sells less than 4 homes a year. That's pathetic.
Yeah.
So I think the stat, which is even worse, less than half of the agents in the country sold a house last year. So I don't know what people are doing.
Yeah.
It's you just have to find a seller, get in the middle of a seller and a buyer, and that's it.
Yeah.
But they're complicating it because I think they're wasting so much time doing things like this.
Yeah.
They can't set this up properly.
Yeah.
They can't do social media properly. Delegate it out. If you're going to do it, have the professionals do it.
100%. Especially too, as you develop your business more. I get it when you're first starting out. You got to wear a ton of hats. But as you get more established, there's just no rhyme or reason.
Right.
It doesn't even make sense. So you were kind of talking too about this idea of almost an overflow of agents. The stat that 1,500 in the last year. Now we're down. Do you think that's going to be a continuing trend of agents really dropping out?
I do. I don't know how. I don't think it'll be as the extreme it was from 2008 to 2012, because I think we got down to about 7,000 or 8,000 agents total in Chicago back then. I do think agents are going to drop out because it's been so easy.
You mean 700, right?
No. I think it was 7,000, between 7,000 and 8,000 real estate agents in the city of Chicago.
Oh, okay.
That were active.
Yeah.
So I do think we will drop out. I think a lot of agents will drop out because the market is a normal market.
Yeah.
You actually have to have a conversation with your seller on why the house isn't selling in a week with 17 different offers.
Right.
It's a normal market.
Yeah.
You actually have to have a conversation with a buyer saying, I understand rates are a little over 7%. This is the payment you can afford. Is this the right house for you? Not, they're 2% this week. Oh, they're 2.5%. Let's hurry up. You have to work.
Yeah.
You have to educate your sellers and buyers. And honestly, what I'm seeing out there, I don't think a lot of people want to do the work. They want the business handed to them. You can't have that.
That doesn't work.
It'd be great if it did, maybe. I don't know. You look at all the Hollywood screw-ups, so maybe not. I don't know.
That's, for us too, a part of our business is like we have to sell more. We have to be in front of the camera. We have to do all these things. And to piggyback on what you're saying, it's like for us, it's been impossible. Like work just doesn't come to us, right? Like we have to actively go out, hustle, talk to people, do podcasts to meet new agents, right? And I think you're right. Like nothing's going to be handed to you. You got to grind.
Absolutely. And Chicago is a competitive real estate market. We have some great agents in this city.
Yeah.
And we're very lucky. The majority of the agents, we get along. Some of the top people, we all hit it off. We go out to lunch every once in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few that are very separate and they keep to themselves, but they're professional.
Yeah.
The ones you have to worry about are the ones that haven't done a deal because their behavior is not acceptable. It's not business. This is a business. You behave like a business person. Yelling and screaming and swearing, which I do in my personal life all the time, but never in my business life. This is a business. Act like it. I understand the fear of not being able to make a car payment or a mortgage payment, and you need this deal to close, but your behavior is not acceptable. It's not in your client's best interest to be behaving this way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a different time now.
That's always I don't care what industry you're in. It's even something like ours. It's like being a business, being professional, like that stuff is like just what has to happen. It's funny. It's like
you would think, and we are noticing the decline or disappearance of customer service as a whole. I think in all industries, not just real estate or in your industry.
Yeah.
I think it's all over the place. It's absolutely hilarious right now. So it's frustrating, and I hope it changes, but customer service as a whole is just falling apart.
Which is wild because, we're essentially in a service-based business, right? So I think something that, Memo and I like really pride ourselves on is that service part, because without that, like, that's how you retain clients. That's how you
Yeah, picking up the phone shouldn't be a luxury. It should be expected.
Yeah.
And I've had clients who've liked to work with me because I answer my phone.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to answer my phone when I'm with you. I will not answer my phone when I'm on an appointment. But if you call me, I call you back the same day.
Yeah.
There has been attorneys I have worked with where I can call them on a Monday and I won't hear back till Thursday. Or I email on a Monday, I don't hear back till Thursday. That's not acceptable. I don't care how busy you think you are, someone needs to get back to me because
Totally.
I need to answer the client's question.
Yeah.
It's about the client. What's the best interest for the client? They want an answer to their question right away, because I know in the old days it used to say real estate was one of the most expensive purchases in your life. It is the most expensive purchase. If you're buying a Lamborghini, your house is 10 times as much as that Lamborghini.
Yeah.
So it's an emotional business from the sellers and the buyers. They're stressed out.
Yeah.
Our job, and this is a Mike Ferry quote, our job is to be the calming person in the transaction.
Yeah.
So he focuses on that. And again, that's where I keep going back to the coach. He just forced me to just relax and always be like, all right, this is a problem. We can solve the problem. I will make calls to figure out the answer. Or if I don't know the answer, I'll say, I don't know, but I will find out.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no,
Even
no.
at 30 years, there's still things you have no idea.
You're like, good question.
Right.
Two things. I know an awesome real estate attorney, so I'll let you.
Please.
Yeah.
We're desperate for new ones right now
Yeah.
because we've gone through a few and I don't know what's going on. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
bizarre.
Yeah, I've got a great one that I'll give you her details afterwards. Shout out Tanya in my B&I group. She's amazing.
Perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's so interesting too, though, the importance that you have, like having a mentor like that. I really do love that. That to me is something that like makes me think for my own self. Like, man, I should really think about that. Like finding someone to help me navigate business in general.
Well, it just makes a difference. And if you look at it from a common sense standpoint, all the professionals have them. You know what I mean? So when I was in good shape, I weighed 170 because I had a personal trainer, a fighting coach that was fantastic.
Yeah.
He moved. I stopped training. I bulked up to over 200 right now.
Dude,
which is bad.
You're getting mass.
Yeah.
You're putting on mass.
I redefined comfort food, and that's my fault. But now I'm looking for a good trainer that'll push me to get back into shape. So I need that accountability. We just don't have enough of that. In this industry, which is a great industry, I love real estate, it doesn't have any accountability. You can do whatever you want, go to a brokerage office, anybody will hire you. It's practically impossible to get fired from a brokerage office, but you don't know what to do. And you're just sitting there and you have no idea how to get a seller, how to get a buyer, how to negotiate a contract fairly for your seller and your buyer, and what to do next.
Yeah.
It's just mind-blowing.
So when you started off, how have you found, what like was your kind of, to find new leads, right? For us, I would be like, you could probably do it mostly now, like through video, making content, pushing yourself out. But since you're someone that's been in the industry a lot longer, how has that morphed?
It's interesting because it hasn't changed. It'll
Really?
sound weird. It truly
Cool.
hasn't changed in over 30 years. What we learn is how to prospect. So you call people on the phone. It's hilarious because everyone's like, no one answers. Well, I call people every day and they answer every day. So I don't understand that. And you just have a conversation with them. If they're thinking of selling, do they know anybody that wants to sell? When do you plan on moving? How long have you lived at this address? It's really basic scripts that we've learned from the coaching program, but you do it consistently every day, you're going to get the results. And then you focus on your database, people you've worked with in the past. You know, Bobby, you like the way I helped you buy a house, correct?
Yeah.
Great. Who do you know that's thinking of moving in the next 7 to 10 days that I can help? Anybody at your church group, work, family, anybody along those lines? It's a simple conversation. And then I offer how I can help you in your career.
Yeah.
You have to talk to people.
Yeah.
Agents don't want to talk to people. I think a lot of them are so busy trying to look good that they're not being effective to their clients. It cracks me up.
Yeah, they're trying to be influencers, and it's,
Yes,
yeah,
that's the word. I couldn't think of the word.
Another thing that Memo says to me all the time, it says, his biggest thing is like quit. Well, go back to it's a business. He goes, quit acting like an influencer. You're a business. Act like a business. Do the right things. Educate your people. Quit showing off. Like,
oh yeah,
it's a stroke of the ego.
Total ego, and I agree with Memo. Other than the whole running 2 miles and drinking coffee thing, I don't understand that concept. But good for you. But no, it's such an ego-driven business, and I've had agents, and this is my ego that gets in the mix because I have to check. Yeah. But I've had agents correct me and explain to me how I'm doing my business wrong and what I need to do more to get different business. And then I research them, and it's like, you sold 3 homes last year. I sold 3 homes last week. I think I'm a little more productive than you. But I don't need to rub that in. I do that to myself to say, all right. And there's agents that'll sell, 15 homes that I know in a month. Yeah. So they're more productive than me. I can learn from them. I'm not going to tell them how to do their business. I'll ask them questions. Yeah. But a lot of agents, to go back to with what Memo was, they want to be influencers. They're ego maniacs, and it's like, you haven't done anything to be this proud. Your income doesn't match your production at all. And it's like, come on, what's wrong with you?
That's wild.
I know it's not going to make people happy. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, that's real. It's refreshing, honestly, to have a conversation with someone that's actually like talking and like, bro, this is how you see it. I love that. How do you see we kind of touched base like interest rates, right? They went from record lows all the way up to 7.5 at this, right? Which in retrospect isn't that crazy, right? If you're looking over the last 30, 40 years, correct?
Right. No, when I first got in, they were like they bounced between 10 and 11%. Yeah. So that was normal, and it was fine. People will always buy. People will always have to sell. You just want to work with the people that want to buy and people that want to sell, the motivated sellers, the serious buyers. So when they went down to 7% in the 90s, everybody thought the golden days were here and this is fantastic. And then they stayed at that for a little bit, then they dropped, and then 5% was the golden days. Yeah. What was funny to me is at the 2.5, which I think they hit to a 2.25 at one time with certain, depending on how you've structured the loan, there were still people that were waiting for 1%.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And you're always going to have those people that will wait. Like, no, they need an excuse not to make a decision. Yeah. And it's interesting. And agents will use an excuse not to be productive. Like, oh, we're going to wait till the rates are 1%. Then everybody's going to buy. It's like, well, people are buying now. It's not going to happen. Yeah. I had a guy in my building at a building party give me garbage because the rates were 7. And he's like, there's no way I'm going to buy. And I go, you weren't going to buy when they were 2. I mean, so let's just be honest. Really matter, man. It's like, you've been renting in the same unit for 20 years. Yeah. It could have been paid off by now if you bought it 20 years ago. Right. But you do you. It's all good. It's hilarious. It's whatever.
Man. That's so funny. You're like, you were going to buy no matter what. Right. How do you then talk to people about that? Like, similarly, it is higher, but what, I guess more of like, how do you kind of coach them all, or not coach them, but like kind of walk them off the ledge a bit?
Well, you have to go in a consultation program when you're with buyers or when you're with sellers. Mm-hmm. You pre-qualify all your sellers to see if you can help them and if they really want to sell. When it's a buyer, it's the same routine. We have a face-to-face meeting. It takes anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, depending on questions. But you go over the whole process, and you make sure this is the right move for you. Do you want to buy right now? This is what you could afford. This is what your monthly payment will be. This is what is available for you at what you can afford and what your payment will be. Are you interested in moving forward? Yeah. That's it. Some people will be like, no, I'm going to wait till the rates come down, but I want to start looking now. It's like, well, you're not going to do that with me. You could do that on your own on the weekends because it's not fair to sellers. Okay. If you're selling your house, you don't want me coming through if I'm not going to buy for 2 years. Right. It just doesn't make sense. You're getting your hopes up, and that's not fair. Yeah. So you have to explain to the buyer, we need to be fair to everybody. If you're going to buy in 30 days or less, great, we can make that happen. If you're not, there's no point in going out looking. You're just going to be disappointed.
You're just window shopping.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's wasting everybody's time.
Yeah.
I can go home, play with my dog. I would be fine. That's what all I want to do now. He's an English bull and he's great. That's all I care about.
Well, that's an awesome perspective, and it's cool that you take the time to just at least be honest enough with them to be like, no, this doesn't make sense. You're it's a jerk.
Yeah, no, you have to. I mean, and you do. There's times you do offend people, but I'm trying to think. Mike says it better, and I can't come up with how he used to say it, but it's better just to be upfront and honest in the beginning, because then you don't have to remember anything. So if I'm going to offend you because you can't afford a house, we need to do it immediately, because I don't want to disappoint. That was it. I'd rather offend you now than disappoint you later, because I don't want to disappoint you in 3 months when you try to buy a house and you realize you can't afford the house.
Yeah.
Then you're disappointed.
100%.
So before we get in the car, you get a pre-approval. You've talked with the lender. We've done the numbers. This is what you can afford. There will not be a disappointment. And if you're offended, I apologize. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So this is a good question. I always think this is like an age-old question. Do you get a real estate agent first, or you go to a lender to get pre-approved?
It's a good question. I think you talk to an agent first, and here's why. Because the process might not be for you. So talking to a lender, you need to know which lender is a good lender, because it's the same thing with lending. It's the same thing with real estate. There's a bunch of people in it who shouldn't be in that business whatsoever.
Totally.
So it's a problem. So most agents have 3 or 4 lenders they've worked with that they can recommend. But you need to understand the process from beginning to end. It is serious. You are filling out a contract. You are going to buy a house. Illinois is an attorney state. So you will be using a real estate attorney. You will be getting a home inspector. You will be talking to your lender on, sadly, a daily basis right before the closing to find final numbers. There's a certain stress level. I think they say real estate is one of the top 3 stressful things you do. The Trib used to always do it in January, where it was planning a wedding, planning a funeral, or buying and selling real estate.
Yeah.
And everybody loses it. Throughout one moment in the process, they have a little mental breakdown. So that's why I think talking to an agent is in your best interest at first, because the process might not be for you.
Okay.
And if it doesn't work for you, that's fine.
What do you mean, though, by the process? Like, give me an example of what that might
Sure. Some people are adamant about not working with attorneys. I've had clients that I've interviewed before to be a buyer, and they do not want an attorney. They said they'll take care of it themselves. And I said, you can't. That's an option for you, but then we won't work together, because legally you're leaving yourself open for lawsuits left and right. Don't put yourself in that position. You need a real estate lawyer. I've had other people who've used family members who were divorce lawyers. In Chicago, and I don't know what we're allowed to say, but there's a certain average cost that every real estate attorney closes and charges for a closing. Whatever that number is, it could change, but it's an X dollars. I had this one client use a family friend who was a divorce lawyer. Well, divorce lawyers charge per phone call. So her fee was 10 times what the average fee was. He didn't rip her off, but in his business, that's how he made money. Totally. And that's what he did. So that's where the process might not be for people. If they want to do it 100% their way and they need to argue all the time, don't do it. I've had other people not want an inspector. They refuse to have an inspector. That's an option. It's a poor option. You're buying a $500,000 house, spend $400 and have a professional. I won't know if there's a crack in the heat exchanger. It's not my job to check the furnace for that. Get the inspector to check that. We have great inspectors that we work with. There was an agent who, I'm assuming she got in a lot of trouble for this, marketed on Facebook that if you expect to get a house, don't ever have a home inspection.
Wow.
That's how crazy the bids were, but that's the worst advice possible. Because there could be mold, there could be issues with the roof. You don't know. But there are some people that don't want to do that. So, and it's also a learning process, like we said earlier. We might not gel together. We're going to spend a week, maybe 2 weeks looking at homes, okay? And then we're going to spend another 45 days on a weekly basis updating you on the transaction. If we don't like each other and we don't trust each other, there's no point in going further. And
this is going to be a long journey.
It is. And you want it to be fun. It's stressful, but it can be fun and enjoyable. You know?
100%. Where do you think, too, with over the last couple of years, where do you really find where your business is coming from? Are you getting more of those, obviously, well, it sounds like it, repeat customers?
I'm very lucky, knock on wood. I get a lot of database referrals because I work my database. I call my past customers my center of influence. As you can also tell, I'm very chatty.
Yeah.
So I talk to everybody about real estate. I have gotten deals in elevators before by talking to people. There's a candy shop across the street. I have gotten deals from, can I say the name of it, or am I allowed?
Oh, you can. I won't.
Okay,
What?
Windy City
Windy
Sweets,
City?
which is fantastic. It's
Yeah.
the best candy in the city of Chicago.
Yeah.
But I've also gotten business from there because I talked to the staff. I sold Wendy a house, who I don't think she works there anymore, but she was great. But because I talk about the business, that's our job.
Yeah.
And this is a Mike Ferry quote. There's people you know, and there's people you don't know. Which group is bigger?
Yeah.
And that's the group you talk to.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, too. That always, you're going to the way you're going to make money is not with the people you know. It's like once you step out of that.
Right. It's a smaller group, so you can make money, but a small amount.
Yeah.
And you need to help a bigger group. So focus on the people that you don't know, and then it's just going to come to you.
So, yeah, well, it sounds like, too, that you've been saying is like your ability to go out and reach people and talk to people is really one of the driving factors of like why you've been successful. If you were a newer agent coming into the industry, what do you think would be your biggest? Well, it almost sounds like I could answer that. Like find a mentor of some kind.
Yeah. Find a coach. Do your research on the coach. Because, again, there's a million of them out there right now. But there's a few that are successful. And everybody says they're number one at everything. If you learn the people who are making the most money follow this coach, that's the one you should be following.
Yeah.
And I know people that are making, I'm not at this level, but they're making millions a year following Mike Ferry as their coach.
Yeah.
Now, there's other people, as I said, who were trained by him and they're starting to do their own thing.
Yeah.
The difference
Disciples.
is, pretty much, it's like, Jesus. But the difference is, Mike is not about, he's more about, all he focuses on your agent's productivity and profitability. That's what he wants. A lot of the other trainers and coaches are all telling you to buy this, spend money on this, try this, do this, and you're spending $7 or $10 grand a month that you don't have. You can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But his way is simple. You talk to new people every day, and then you repeat the process again. You find a listing, you tell everybody in the world about it, you get it sold, you tell everybody that you sold it, then you do it again. It's a very simple process.
Yeah.
So that would be the biggest thing, is to find a mentor, but a mentor that knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And not an influencer that thinks they know what they're doing.
That's awesome. Where do you find yourself working in the Chicagoland? Are you a little bit everywhere, or would you say you?
Pretty much all over the place in the city. I mean,
Yeah.
we grew up in the burbs,
Cool.
right on the edge of Chicago, Canfield and Higgins. So I'm familiar with that. When my son was younger, we lived out in the northwest suburbs. And then when he hit 18, I went right down to the city.
Yeah.
I live on Lakeshore and Addison, so I prefer down here. I get a lot of trouble from my friends in the suburbs because I have a car that I average about 4,000 miles a year, if that.
Yeah.
and they're doing 40,000 miles a year. They're going nuts. I walk to a lot of my appointments. It's great.
That's
You know,
awesome.
I take the bus if I'm bored.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
downtown to it. Pop on the 146. So this primary area is obviously what I would like. But I just sold a house out in Highland Park.
Nice.
Yeah. So I mean, we do run around.
Yeah, my brother lives out in Highland Park.
Beautiful.
Cool area.
Yeah, right by the golf course. We sold a townhouse.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He
It's
lives
gorgeous.
right next to Ravinia.
Oh, okay, nice.
Right next to the metro.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. I love that area.
Oh yeah, no, it's great.
Um,
We were first talking about teams as a whole. Everybody wants to be a team leader,
Right.
And they all think they can be a team leader. And teams, we have found out overall, just aren't successful in general, because you may be a great salesperson, but this is again from Mike Ferry, from a training coach, but you're not a good leader.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference between being a leader and a salesperson, and Mike points that out all the time. And I've met many people that have 10 or 15 people on a team, and they brag about their production being 15 or 20 million a year. And when you break that down per person, that's pathetic.
Yeah.
And you're spending your time managing people versus doing what got you to this place in the first place, which is being a great salesperson.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being a salesperson. Everybody wants to come up with a different title, team leader, CEO, president, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm a salesman. I sell real estate. I don't want to be a member of a team. It's me and my assistant. It's that simple. It's not complicated.
Yeah.
The goal in this is to be productive. But again, that's ego driven. Everybody wants to think they're in that $1 million listing spotlight, and that's just not the way reality works.
The same thing. Like I, at this point, am now like a salesperson. Like I sell our product at this point. I no longer like sit behind the camera, and I mean I do a little bit, but really I'm the foreground of it. Like someone's got to be selling it. You have to become a salesperson. So I guess for me, I'm kind of just interested. What are some advice you might have on becoming a better salesperson? Especially for me, it doesn't feel as natural, right? I feel like I'm more creative, right?
Okay. I mean, anybody can be a good salesperson. So those are great questions. Do some research. You know your product, but do some research on some basic sales. Yeah. Come up with some good scripts and stay consistent with the scripts that you use. And for us, we always try to do a certain amount of contacts per day. So you want to spend most of your day as a salesperson as 75% of it in income producing activity and 25% of it with admin. So by income producing activity for you, it would be trying to find new clients.
Yeah.
This may be considered income producing activity. You have to figure out in your schedule what that is. So then you just break it down to that, and then just constantly go out there. Understand rejection is part of it, and it's strictly a numbers game.
Yeah.
You're going to get the door slammed in your face a lot, but all you need is X amount of yeses. Yeah. And the day's great. You know?
Yeah, man. I think I overplayed in my mind too much. Like maybe just too much of a thinker. Mm-hmm. And it's just like go out and just fucking do it.
That's it. Yeah, no, that's it. And a lot of people do that. They plan ahead. They think, it's ready, aim. Well, let's ready, aim, just fire. Yeah. Just do it. Yeah, I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? It's really simple. I mean, you're going to get rejected, you're going to get yelled at, but every no is going to bring you closer to that yes. Yeah. And you have a good product to sell. Yeah. You're not selling garbage. So that makes a difference.
100%. Well, thank you for saying that. It's nice of you to say. But yeah, I think that's good. That's good advice. I do need to come up with a better pitch, or not even pitch, but like a script. Mm-hmm. I think for a while I kind of had one, but I just need to refine it more, I think, and then just get over it, because we've been.
It's the fear of rejection is normal.
I mean, that might be. Yeah,
that's totally normal. I've known people who are petrified of it, and I've known people who are fantastic salespeople, but they're the shyest people in the world outside of their job. But they know that this is what they have to do for their job. Right. In order to help the client, I have to be this way. In order to help the client, I need to ask a lot of motivating questions. Why are you selling? What does this mean to you if it doesn't happen? What's going to, I need to know your information. So, and as a salesperson, we need to, how can this service benefit you? When do you want to use this service? When was the last time you used a service similar to this? Those are questions you need to ask.
Yeah, that's all good. I'm gonna rewatch this and write this down, because that's good. I mean, that's I don't know if maybe it's the interaction that it feels like it's so fast that then I can't really process it. Just like what I mean is like I'm now on this phone call with you, and now I feel like I'm like, maybe it's because I don't have a script or something to follow. Yes. That I'm like,
oh, absolutely.
Deer in a headlight, I guess.
Yeah, without a doubt. And everybody will fight a script, and they say, well, we don't want to use a script. It's not us. We want to be free. We want to improvise. It's not me. You have a script. It's just a bad one. And it's like, so use a script that works, and then use the same script over and over and over again, and you'll get the great results. And you won't think twice about it. How
do you define like getting a better, like in your mind, how would you refine getting a better script? Like, how do I know one's working? Well, obviously I'm selling.
Yes.
But I mean, maybe it's that simple. How would you go about like thinking about refining the script?
It's really what you just said. People are selling. People are buying your product. We have, again, with Mike. Mike has very simple. The Mike Ferry, the coaching program, has very simple scripts for us to use. They have not changed in the 30 years that I've been with them, and he wants us to do them verbatim. Now, there has been times in the beginning I tweaked them because I was so special and intelligent, and I received horrible results because I did it my way. When I went back to his way of using the scripts. For example, it was one of my favorite calls. In the old days, they used to call, when do you plan on moving? And people would hang up on you or whatever. And that was the only question I would ask. If you would say never, I would just boom, and we're done. And then my coach at the time said, ask all the questions. That's why we wrote them down, is for you to ask them. And honest to God, it was, when do you plan on moving? The woman said never. How long have you lived at this address? 40 years, I'm going to die here. Okay, that's great. Where did you move from? I moved next door. I'm not moving. Excellent. If you were to move, where would you go to next? Hand to God. She said, Arizona, because we just bought a retirement home. What?
So, So
when do you want to move? By the end of the month. I came over, listed the house, it sold. It was a script that I fought using for the longest time, but now that I use it consistently, I get great results.
Yeah, that data is probably interesting too to see. See that when you flipped and you kept it simple, stupid, and then the data showed to back up that you were killing it or doing better.
Right.
Yeah, man, that's
And then they take it to a whole different level too. So they do. Again, the coaching system that I am at is great because they do break it down to number of contacts, to number of leads, to number of appointments, to number of closings. But then they tweak it and you send in different, styles or whatnot, and they go, okay, here's the challenge. You're ending your sentences with upswings, needs to be more of a downswing, so they're very critical, but to move you forward so you're more effective on the call. So the guy you're talking to is analytical, I'm an expressive. I'm like, woo, all over the place. You have to tone it down when you're talking to an analytical personality because they're all about the numbers and stats. So they take you to that level. They will move you along. It's a slow move, but you move as long as you're listening.
And
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. The psychology of all that is really interesting to me as well. The idea of who are you talking to? How does your voice, even your voice tone, and how that your inflections can move someone in a direction? I think that stuff is so interesting.
It's so bizarre to me because once you find out, everybody wants you to be a member of their tribe, and you're literally, with an expressive personality, that means I'm only touching really 25% of the people out there.
Right.
So I need to adapt to your tribe. To your style, so I can understand what is important to you. Not what I think is important, but what is important to you. And that's what they teach you at the training, is to listen to the words you say so I can decide what kind of a personality style you are and how I can help you the best. It's hilarious.
That's cool. I mean, that's some high level,
it's
heady.
Next level.
That just shows that's your experience. That's what's made you successful, or part of one of the reasons it's made you successful. You're not playing checkers, you're playing 3D chess. Let's go.
Right. And I've been really fortunate, absolutely. But I wouldn't have been able to get to that level and the only thing I ever give myself credit for being smart on is I was smart enough to hire a coach early on. But I listened. So, that's what got me to the level. Because I know other people who've been selling for 20, 30 years, and they're still floundering all over the place. They're making enough to be miserable, but more than they would in the real world. So they will rather be miserable in real estate, but they can't figure it out. Their egos are too big.
Damn.
Yeah, and it's a horrible way to go.
Well, the ego will get you.
Oh, it's a killer, man.
Yeah, it's a son of a bitch.
Yeah, it really is. And there's a broker out in Long Beach, Neil Schwartz, and he's like, the ego is not your amigo.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's so stupid. But it makes sense, you know? And the coach that I work with is really big on, if my ego gets big, he doesn't break me, you're down, but he's like, all right, let's put it in perspective. Let's bring everything down. Let's go into reality right now. You were struggling a month ago with this. You overcame this. Let's go back to see what we can go to the next level now. So it's just great. I mean, We've had a tremendous month in real estate. We had a great first quarter. We did 18 deals in the first quarter of the year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And everybody had a horrible first quarter. And I don't know why. It made no sense to us at all.
Very few agents that I would talk to. Some were killing it. Some were like,
yeah, I just didn't get it. And right now it's August, whatever, 4th or 5th. And I think it's in July and August, I think we're at 10 or 12 deals for the year. Not for the year, for July and August so far. We've had a good July. We had a great July. We're having a good August. So based on that, I might be getting a little cocky or a little complacent. And now my coach is bringing down the cockiness and the complacency and pushing me to go to different levels. And that's what I need at this point in my career.
I can really kind of relate to that. I feel like sometimes we do really well, and then there's like this idea of complacency happens, and then we look at the numbers and we're like, we got to get moving.
Oh yeah.
And it feels like, and I think that will even out as we, grow more, or like as we develop, Memo and I as business people, I think that will even out. But right now, early stages of our business, it's just sometimes it feels like this.
Oh no, it's a roller coaster, and it's a horrible roller coaster, and you want it to just keep going like this. You don't want to go like that.
No,
But
I would even take sometimes I feel like, man, we're killing it. We're doing so well. And then sometimes I'm like, and it's like a week later and you're like, things have changed and, new things have come into perspective. So I guess that's just one thing I'm just still trying to get used to.
Sales in general, it's a challenge. And Mike always tells us it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
So he's like, you got to do the same thing every day, 5 days a week, and you're going to get to where you got to go. But don't let he's always big on keeping the emotions between the lines.
Yeah.
And being an expressive personality. I did, but my lines were really far apart. So I was like, this is the best day in the world. Oh my God, I don't know what to do. And it was horrible. And he's like, bring the lines closer, closer, calm down. And it took professionals to tell me to do that, and I had to listen to them.
Man, it seems from just even talking to you, your ability, it sounds like, to take direction and like feel it and not like, it sounds like not letting your ego get in the way.
Well, it's also 30 years, keep in mind, and getting beat up pretty bad by the coaches in the beginning. I mean, they hung up on me when I would work with them because my ego was so big and they wouldn't talk to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm paying you every month for this call. Yes, you are. And they would just hang up, and it's like, wait a second. So my ego was huge, and I learned. And the one guy said, your income doesn't match your ego, so knock it off.
Damn.
Either learn or go to a different program.
Damn.
And I was like, all right.
Damn.
But that worked for my personality style. I needed to be told that directly and that bluntly by somebody that I respected. So then I started listening. And it still gets like this, and then they bring it back down. And then it gets like this, and then they bring it back down. So that's not in a negative way. Like it's not like my family.
It's not like Memo.
It's not like Memo. It's a positive, you're doing good. However, let's put this into perspective. And it's great. So that's what I need to keep moving.
That's I vibe with that. I find the very similar things happen.
It's challenging.
My own perspective is sometimes I get checked, and then I let it go back, and then I get checked again. But I guess that's just like you gotta do that to survive, or like to keep growing. You gotta keep going after it. And
oh yeah, and it's the best part. It's a challenge, and you decide what you want to do. You know what I mean, and what's important to you, and what. Because I remember, I always felt that a good exercise program is very similar to real estate. So working out is similar to prospecting. If you don't work out every day, you're going to get like this.
Yeah,
that's not good. And if you don't prospect every day, you're going to be broke. So as long as you're consistent with prospecting, you'll be fine. And if you're consistent with working out, you'll be great. My trainer, Robbie. He was the former Muay Thai champion of England. He took it very serious when we were in the ring. And one day, after about 2 weeks of good sparring and I was feeling really good about myself, I was late by 5 minutes. 5 minutes. That was it. And he said, let's go to the ring. And I was still dressed, and I go, I got to change, I got to stretch. And he's like, nope, you're 5 minutes late. Come on, let's go. He beat the hell out of me for 15 minutes straight. There was no break, there was no nothing. Yeah. And I remember, and he said, you're not good enough to be this cocky, and when you get good enough, you won't be cocky. Don't be late again.
Damn.
And I always remember that. And I was like,
damn, you got some good people around you.
I'm lucky. I'm
dude.
so lucky. Yeah, I've learned from in my opinion, some of the best. Yeah, I've been very fortunate.
How much do you think, this is a question I always talk with my buddies about, like, how much do you think of it as luck? How much do you think of it as just like sheer will, being successful, doing all these things? Where do you think that line is?
That's another good question. I'm guilty of always saying I'm lucky. And I think if you work hard enough, you get really lucky. Using like the Mike Ferry system, I was one of those people that was in his coaching program, and my business would go up. Then I would stop because I'd let outside influences affect my business decision. So my family would say, you don't need to be paying a coach, that's stupid. Well, then my business would go down. And then I'd go back into coaching and my business would go up. And then a relationship would be like, you're wasting money on coaching, get out. And then business would go down. It was a roller coaster for a little bit. There's a logical point. I think it is willingness, because I literally asked to get back into coaching and they turned me down. And they said, no, because you quit all the time. We don't want to work with you. You're in, you're out. Yeah. Think up your mind. We don't want to work with you. Mike was doing a seminar in Italy, and I flew to Italy to basically beg to get back into coaching because I knew I could not keep sustaining what I needed to get at. I was like, I need this. I'm not going to quit again. And that was back in 2015. And I haven't left. I haven't thought of leaving. I'm never going to leave. But so I think you do make your own luck sometimes, because I don't think if I would have flown out there, I would let my ego make my decision for me and not, screw that. I don't need to beg. I did. Yeah. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't happy with where I was at. I was frustrated. So yeah. So I think you do make your own luck sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's I am under the idea that like luck is a part of it a little bit, but like preparation, that's where hard work and preparation meet, and that's what luck is. And that's what it kind of sounds like you're saying to me. Like you put in the work, you not like you had to work hard to go to Italy, but you still did something like extraneous to make sure you got what you needed, and then luck has come because of that.
Oh yeah, and I had to prove I was serious about it.
Right.
It's like, nope, never leaving again. This is we're not doing this roller coaster.
Mike, great conversation with you.
Oh, thank you.
You so much.
Thank you very much, Mama.
You can look into that camera. Tell the people where they can find you. We call it our shameless plug.
Oh,
so
sure.
Anything you'd like to say?
Mike Checuga. I work with Remax Next in Chicago. My number is 773-895-7243. If you're thinking of buying or selling in the next 30 days, give me a call. I'd love to help you out. Have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.